Hey guys, it's Cooley. Today, I wanted to talk about something kind of fun, mixing two of my favorite interests, the horror genre and video games. Now kiss. That's what we're doing today. I have been a scary movie nerd since I can remember. Every year it's escalated more and more. When I was younger, I used to be kind of a wimp. And I think being a streamer caused me to be less and less of a wimp because when I play scary games, it forces you to move the plot forward by actually playing as the main character. And back when I was younger, when I would just watch scary movies, you're just watching them, you're not living them, right? If you guys watch me on Twitch, you guys know I love horror. I play a lot of horror games, play a lot of scary games. I like blood and gore and sci-fi and all the things. So today I wanted to talk about 15 scary video games that I have played in the past and give my honest reviews on them. Let's start with a video game that shaped how I see, watch, and play scary genre video games. BioShock. BioShock came out in 2007, and let me tell you guys, I was obsessed with this game. I actually didn't play it when it came out. I watched my brother play it because this was back when I was too young and definitely too scared to play games like this on my own. But my brother played it, he played all of it at my house, so I got to watch the whole storyline unfold. This was the first video game I ever experienced where you could choose a good option or a bad option, and it has multiple endings. So not only was this my first scary game, but it was also my first multiple endings game. And before you guys freak out, I promise I'm not going to be spoiling anything, just brief synopsises of the game without spoilers. BioShock opens up. You're a man on an airplane, clearly brooding about something or other, and then the plane crashes. And you're in the middle of water, in the middle of nowhere, and you swim to the nearest location. And that location is a tower in the middle of open ocean. You swim to the tower, you go down an elevator, and that elevator takes you under the sea. And from there on out, it's chaos. Spooky, fun, creepy chaos. If you like underwater, or if underwater things creep you out, or utopia versions of a future, or things that feel retro, you're gonna like BioShock. I super duper recommend this game if you are someone who wants to get into playing scary games. I think because it's older, it's not the scariest game out there, but it has an incredible, interesting storyline. This is one of those games where you pick up lore along the way and you get to hear people's backstories and interesting things that happened before everything went to hell. Yes, this game includes gore, the script is interesting, there are things that might be triggering, but mostly it is just interesting. I'm going to assume that most of you guys have played this game, but if you haven't, would you kindly consider playing it? Thanks. If I had to rate BioShock on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 10. I have always found it to be a very perfect game. I think it holds up over time. I still enjoy playing it to this day. I love all the things that you find out throughout the game, and I love the character designs, and I love the idea of the big daddy little sister combo. Next game on the list is called Amnesia Dark Descent. There's a huge possibility you know what this game is because this game was very viral on YouTube for a very long time. This is the game that got me into gaming on social media. This is the game that introduced me to gaming YouTubers. This is the game that I was too scared to play. Like I said, I grew up watching my brother play BioShock. I eventually did play it as an adult, but Amnesia is one of those games that to this day I still haven't beaten myself. Amnesia is exactly what it sounds like. You wake up in a mansion all by yourself and you don't remember anything. And the game is basically you trying to find out why you gave yourself amnesia and what the hell is chasing you in a very creepy mansion. When Amnesia Dark Descent was going viral on the internet, I watched every single gaming YouTuber play the full playthrough. I was a kid, I had a lot of free time, and I was procrastinating on homework. This game was so interesting to me because it was the first time I ever saw a game where you were chased by a monster and you could not fight back. All you had was a lantern and some tinder boxes to keep that shit lit, and if you didn't use that, you would go crazy. This was also another game that had multiple endings, and let me tell you, I watched so many playthroughs of this game, y'all. So many playthroughs. Too many to count. Too many. I watched people play it recently because there was a new Amnesia that came out and people were playing Dark Descent to lead up to the new game. And to this day, I can't tell you how it ends. I don't remember. I remember what it looks like. I remember the gist of what's like going on in the scene. But can I tell you why or what is happening? No, I can't. No. And I wouldn't say that the game's forgettable, because I remember every single kind of monster that chases you in that game. I remember the twists and turns. I remember specific rooms, because this, for me, was a game that was about the journey and not necessarily the destination. To this day, I will still rate this game a 10, because I don't care how pixelated and weird the monsters look, they still scare the crap out of me. And then there's the Dead Space franchise. I'm going to talk about Dead Space 2, which came out in 2011, mainly because it's the only one I really remember. I told you guys that those first 2 games I talked about I'd never played. At this point in my life, I hadn't played a scary game. I'd only watched others play them. But at this point, 2011, I had never touched the controller during a scary game. And then one night, I had a slumber party with my brother and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, at their apartment, and they introduced me to Dead Space 2. I think I might have seen my brother play the first one on and off when he was still living with me, but I didn't really know much about it. But I really think that Dead Space 2 is a standalone game. Dead Space 2, you play a guy named Isaac who is on a space station trying to kill an alien outbreak. Kind of like the Alien movies. Now, I'm sat at my brother's apartment on his couch, and he's peer pressuring me to play this scary game. And let me tell y'all, I had so much fun. I'm so glad that he forced me to play and not just watch, because I don't know if I would have ever played a scary game on my own. But I finally tried it because I had him sitting next to me and Shayla sitting next to me, and they were encouraging me, also trying to scare me. It was a whole thing. It was a bonding experience. The game was fun at the time, but it did not age well. Nowadays, when you play scary games, every room has its own monster, or it has its own story to tell. There's puzzles, there's this and that makes the game feel like it is not repetitive. However, Dead Space 2 is just one of those, another room, more shooty shoot, 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 shoot. I shot everything in this room, next room, more shooty shoot, 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 shoot. Next room, shooty shoot, 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 shoot. Yes, they introduce different monsters every once in a while, but it's hella repetitive. The only reason I enjoyed it at the time was because it was my first time ever playing something like it. I still recommend playing it at least once, but it's probably not going to feel as good as the new horror video games nowadays. I'd give this a 6 out of 10. Next, I'm going to talk about Outlast, which was 2013. The DLC of Outlast 1 was 2014. And then I'll talk about Outlast 2, which is 2017. I'm going to say, Outlast, I feel like, was one of those games that everybody was so interested in when it came out, and now everybody talks shit about to this day. Like, oh, it wasn't even that scary. You just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I agree with you. But here's the thing. For those of you who don't know, the first Outlast game, you're a reporter trying to get the scoop on a hospital, like an asylum, right? And you sneak in, you break in, and then you get stuck in there and you have to escape. When it comes to my experience, Outlast was the first game I ever played where you used a camcorder to see in the dark instead of like a flashlight. This was another game where you could not fight back on the enemies that were chasing you. Now, here's my thing with Outlast. A lot of people's beef with the game is the fact that there's a lot of scenes where you kind of have to kite an enemy that's roaming in a circle. I agree that gets repetitive, but as someone who has a major fear of being followed or chased, this never stopped being scary for me. Ever. I understand how that can become a game mechanic that you just get over, but it just wasn't for me. So I actually enjoyed Outlast, I think, more than a lot of people did. I will say, this game is a slow burn, though. For me, all of the substance of the game comes from the storyline that you get at the end and the DLC that came a year later. Standalone, this game without the end and the DLC, I would probably rank it a 6 out of 10. The DLC for me, though, brought the game to at least an 8. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't played the game before. Now, Outlast 2 came out in 2017. I don't remember this game, and I played it on stream. I remember the ending. I remember the triggering topics. I remember not being impressed. So I'm gonna rate Outlast 2 a 5 out of 10. So the DLC for Outlast 1 came out in 2014, but there is a game that came out in 2014 that still looks beautiful. And that game is Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is an extension of the Alien franchise, the movies with Sigourney Weaver. Yes, they made a video game of it where you play Ripley's daughter in the future. Very similar concept to the Alien movies. You're basically on a ship, you don't know what's going on, and now you're being chased by a xenomorph. This game can get repetitive too. It's very much like Outlast in the sense that there is a lot of kiting and running around and trying to stay a specific distance from an enemy so it can't kill you. However, the AI for the xenomorph was top of the line, so smart, so intelligent, and just plain evil and scary and challenging and awful, and I hated it. I hated it in a good way though. This game remained so much scarier than Outlast did for me because the AI wasn't predictable like Outlast was. Not to mention, playing that game now in 2021, it still looks amazing. I'm gonna rank Alien Isolation a 7 out of 10 for the reason that to this day I don't remember how it ends, because it wasn't memorable enough. Another game for me that was about the journey and not the destination. 2015 included one of the video games that changed my life, SOMA. SOMA might be a game that you haven't heard of before. Some people will say that this game isn't scary. I don't really care about that. At the end of the day, it's scary for me because it's another game that takes place underwater, and it's another game that has a very, very heartbreaking, tragic, interesting story. The beginning of SOMA, you realize that the character you're playing as is dying. They have some sort of tumor or problem with their brain and they have to have surgery. So you take your meds, you go to the doctor, and the doctor puts you in this chair. And this chair is supposed to do this whole scan of your brain, right? Well, you do the scan and you wake up somewhere completely different. This game made me question so much, and this game made me sob at the end. I love this game. I love to introduce people to it because I think this storyline is something that can be life-changing if you actually internalize it in some way. It can be very beautiful. Unfortunately, I can't tell you more about it without totally spoiling twists and turns. But it's another, I'm being chased by something and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But it's so different at the same time. The enemy is something very different. BioShock takes place underwater, but you're always in an infrastructure. In SOMA, you go out into the water. You spend time at the bottom of the ocean. And that is horrifying. I would give SOMA a 9.5 out of 10 because I'm very biased because that game just means a lot to me. 2015 was a great year for video games because you know what else also came out that year? Until Dawn. Someone asked me once, if there was a game that you could experience for the first time all over again, what would it be? My answer was Until Dawn. Until Dawn is another game that's totally ahead of its time. Some of the great things about this game is the mystery of what is going on. All the actors in this game actually wore motion capture suits to actually act out the scenes, and this game plays out like a movie. Until Dawn was created by the same people who made Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain would be on this list if it qualified as a horror game, but technically it does not. It's more of a murder mystery. Fantastic game. Beat that game in one night. Loved it so much. Until Dawn, some of the magic of the game is discovering what happens. You play as every character in this game. It's a group of friends that are going to a ski lodge a year after two of your friends went missing at that same ski lodge. Super weird that they all decided to celebrate their friend going missing a year later out of nowhere, but it plays out like a horror movie. And it's just so damn neat. To me, one of the coolest parts about this game is you can play this game differently every time you play it. Yes, once you know what happens, you know what happens, but there still is replayability. Why? Because every character can die, every character can survive, and sometimes some people can die and some people can survive. And it changes dialogue options, it changes the story, and it makes for super interesting playthroughs. Not only that, but you have character traits. You learn about these characters as you're playing them, and you can actually make your characters exhibit personality traits that they weren't necessarily written to exhibit. Also, in my opinion, one of the scariest sound effects in a video game comes from Until Dawn. I won't tell you what the monster is, but I will play the sound right now. Trigger warning, this is a scary sound. Turn your headphones down. It scares the crap out of me every time I hear it. And I'm gonna rank Until Dawn a 10 out of 10. This game is an almost perfect game for me. I really desperately want them to make more games like it. The creators have made the anthology Man of Medan, and I don't remember what the other games are called. Caesar, help me. I haven't played them. I am planning on playing them in October of this year on stream. I'm really excited to talk about the next game. This game came out in 2016, and it was called Inside. Inside was made by the same creators, I do believe, as the video game Limbo. Limbo I never actually beat, which is why it is not on the list. Inside is a side-scroller with beautiful aesthetic. You play a little boy that is running in one direction. It's a puzzle game. There are monsters and people chasing you, and I can't tell you more. The mystery of the game is what really makes it. I rank this game a 9 out of 10. This is another game I wish I could experience for the first time again. And I will say, this is probably the least scary game on this list. Very worth a watch, very worth playing. The next game I want to talk about is an indie game that came out in 2016 called Layers of Fear. I actually played this game on stream a few times and attempted to play the second game on stream, but got too scared and had to stop, and I never beat it. The first Layers of Fear game is a walking sim. It's a game where you mostly just walk forward and learn about this character's life. You play a painter who is clearly disturbed, and you learn about his life through memories and through walking through a creepy old mansion. I would say I'm kind of a scaredy cat, and I didn't think Layers of Fear was scary, but I did think it was creepy and eerie. So this is definitely a game for people who don't play scary games often, and it's short too. I was able to beat this game in 2 streams, and the streams were probably like 3 hours long each. The story's super interesting. I really enjoy it. I think everybody should play it at least once just to experience it, because it's definitely one of its kind and very well done. I will say that the voice acting is very well done. And I will say there are some very creepy scenes that are definitely worth it. I would rank Layers of Fear a 6 out of 10. Then we got 2017. This is another, I believe, indie horror game called Little Nightmares. Actually, this past year, Little Nightmares just came out with a second game of the series, which I have not actually played yet, and I will probably play this October on stream. But in the first Little Nightmares, you play a little kid, once again, kind of like Inside, and you are trying to run away from what seems like people who are trying to eat you. The art is very creepy horror claymation. It reminds me very much of Coraline. It's mostly a puzzle platformer game because you play as a kid, so you're not strong, and you have to run away from these things by moving furniture and crawling on top of stuff. The reason I'm going to rank Little Nightmares low is not because of the story, not because of the art, but because it's so goddamn difficult. If you know me, you know I suck at platformers, y'all. Here's the thing. Most people will rank this game probably like an 8 out of 10, because it is a fantastic game. It's super interesting, super cool. It has a lot of replayability. The DLC is fantastic. There is a lot that you can do with this game, and it is not short either. But I got so ragey at some points playing this game that I almost had to stop streaming it. So I'm going to rank this game a 6.5 out of 10. Maybe a 7, because it is still super cute and creepy at the same time. And the next game also came out in 2017, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, but 7 comes before 8, so you guys can wait patiently for me to talk about Biohazard. Resident Evil 7 starts with Ethan getting a message from his wife saying that she needs him to come visit her or get her or save her. She's asking him to come find her, basically. So he goes in search of his wife, and he stumbles upon this creepy old farmhouse. Once he gets there, he finds his wife, and she's different. And all of a sudden, he's trapped in this farmhouse, and he can't get out either. This is a Resident Evil game, so you know there's creepy-ass monsters, you know that there's twists and turns, and you know that the game lasts a while, and there's a lot of scary bosses. Out of all the Resident Evil games I have played, 7 is, in my opinion, the scariest. So if you want to have a good scare, you play 7. If you want to have fun because the storyline is super interesting and cool, and all the characters are interesting and cool, and the art is interesting and cool, you play 8. I loved both of these games, but I got frustrated a lot with the inventory system of 7. 7 is like all the original Resident Evil games where you have to do a lot of inventory management. 8, you do the same thing, but your inventory can grow over time based on making purchases. In my opinion, 8 did a lot for the franchise to improve on things that were frustrating about the old games. So for me, the game gets ranked lower because of frustrating mechanics, not because it's not a good game. I would say Resident Evil 7 Biohazard would be a 7 out of 10 for me. And Resident Evil The Village is a 10 out of 10 for me. Yes, I love SOMA. Yes, I love BioShock. But y'all, Resident Evil 8 has this place in my heart now. I was smiling the whole time, man. Even if it wasn't on the outside because I was scared, I felt the smile in my heart. There was just something so special about this game. Resident Evil 8 is a continuation of the storyline that happens in 7, so I can't really give you a synopsis without spoiling things, but it takes place in a village, and there's a lot of really cool, interesting boss characters. But if you haven't seen anyone play Resident Evil 8 and you'd like to watch someone play it, I have the full playthrough in parts on my YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description below. And last but not least, 15th on my list, this game came out in 2020. I have an indie game that you maybe haven't heard of. This is an indie game called The Convenience Store. Short game, you can play this in one sitting. You play someone who works at a convenience store on the night shift. And every day that you go to work, things start getting weirder and weirder and scarier and interesting and maybe demonic? I'm not sure. This is a Japanese psychological horror game. It's very psychological. Like, I don't normally play games like this because this is the kind of stuff that actually does get to me and creeps into my nightmares. I had to beg my chat to let me take my headphones off at one part. It's short, but it gets so scary so fast. It's just really interesting. I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. I had to put it on this list because I played this game a year ago and it still haunts my dreams sometimes. Like, it's just, it fucks with your mind, dude. It really, really does. It's definitely worth a play if you like horror, if you like psychological horror, if you like Japanese games. Definitely check out this game. I'm gonna rate it a 8 out of 10 because I wish it was longer and I wish there was more explanation of what's going on. I'm actually gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I feel like 8 out of 10 is a little too nice, but even though I'm ranking it a 7, I still think it's worth a play. All these games that I talked about today, I think are worth being played at least once, especially if you like scary stuff, you know? Just try it out. Let me know if you've played these games before. Tell me which one's your favorite on the list. And tell me one that maybe I didn't say. Maybe I haven't played your favorite horror game. And I'll add it to my list to maybe play in October of this year on stream. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did by leaving a like, leaving a comment, and hitting that subscribe button. Smash that bell button so you get notifications when I post a new video, okay? I will see you guys on the YouTubes later. Let's play scary video games together. Friends.